My name is Michelle Kaufusi, and I'm running for Provo Mayor. My love for Provo goes back to being born and raised in Provo. I was born and raised by a single mother of 7 children, a unique situation in Provo for the time. Provo made me the person I am today due to the fact that a lot of people contributed to my upbringing, which I appreciate. I attended Brigham Young University. I attended Wasatch Elementary School, Dixon Middle School, and graduated from Provo High School, which I am very proud of, to be a Provo High alumni. My journey to BYU was I wanted to go to Brigham Young University after I went on a field trip over there when I was in high school and was able to see the learning environment and the people that were over there, the teachers, the professors. I was so impressed by everything. And that was my sophomore year, and that's when I decided I am going to get to be at Brigham Young University. So I hit the books. I attended Brigham Young University on an academic scholarship. I believe I had about 14 days off from Provo High before I crossed the street and started school at BYU. And at that point, loved my education, loved being involved. I was actually involved with the Brigham Young University Cougarettes, which was an immediate group of friends and kind girls. Met my husband. He wanted, of course, to get married quicker than I did. I was a little young and wanted to experience college, and off he went back east to play in the NFL, and I stayed at BYU and had the time of my life and had wonderful experiences, met wonderful people, grew and developed, and finally my senior year he called and gave the ultimatum of marry me or give me back my ring. So married him, and off we went to Philadelphia, where we lived for 3 years. Started having our children. 2 of our children were born there, and at that point, when you have kids, reality hits. And we had to have that hard conversation of what is our goal and expectation for our family. And for me, it was a no-brainer. Provo is magical. Provo is where I wanted to be, and Provo is where I wanted to raise my family. So we started taking steps to work our way back to Provo, and we set the goal that by the time our oldest daughter was 12 years old, we would be back in the city of Provo to stay. We worked very hard and had to take pay cuts and I had to work, he had to work. Everyone was working to reach that goal, but we were able to meet that goal, and we have been here ever since, and we have not been disappointed. We love Provo. We love what it has to offer. We love the community feel and everything about it. Being back in Provo, because I have this energy that cannot sit still, I immediately engaged myself in the community, starting with PTAs and volunteering and showing up when I would hear about something in the paper on a Saturday morning and dragging all my children out, and really becoming a part of the community, active in the public library, all those things that make the community great. Taking my kids to high school football games when the oldest was only 12 and there was 4 younger. But I'm a community person, and I love what the community has to offer, and especially Provo. So at that point, after being involved in the PTAs, I decided to implement some programs in the high schools with some help from some other mothers. We implemented the ACT program. We implemented programs to help with those that possibly couldn't afford tickets to go to the senior party. I have this desire to help the underdog and to look out for the underdog, because I was the underdog. I was the free and reduced lunch student at Provo High School. I was in a unique circumstance, and yet everyone rallied around me in the community and really supported me. So I tend to look out for those kids. I decided, after being PTA president at the high school level and then down at the district, that I learned that in order to have a voice, you have to have a seat at the table, meaning a voting seat. And so I went out for being on the Board of Education representing District 2. And that was 6 years ago. And I ran a grassroots campaign. I started in my kitchen with a girlfriend, and my daughter typed up a sign and put Oval Office right above my head, and off we went. We had no idea what we were doing. We learned as we went. We made mistakes. We didn't have all the answers, but we plodded through, got out there, knocked the doors, walked the neighborhoods, met the people, and won the election. And at that point, the school board, I had already been attending all the meetings for a year because I don't come into anything, throw myself into anything blind. And so I had prepared and was ready to go. So onto the school board I went. I have loved my experience there. That's like an open door to multiple other community committees and boards that I have been asked to serve on. Locally, I'm on the Citizens Advisory Board, which is probably one of my favorite boards I sit on for the Provo City. It's highly engaged, and it's all about bridging the gap with the police department and the community and being the face of the neighborhoods. I've loved serving there. I've been on the district PTA. I've worked with the library. I'm on the steering committee for the new add-on to the hospital. I feel like I have had experience in a lot of different areas, which I have loved. 2 years into my being on the board, I was elected board president, which was such an honor because you're elected by your peers, and to be elected means they trust you and they support you. They feel like you're doing well in your job. I felt great about it, and I've enjoyed it so much. I've been put on some state committees, which I've enjoyed, meeting people outside of Utah County. The Board of Trustees for the Utah High Schools Activity Association was one of those, which I was elected by my peers. And as I walked into my first meeting with 22 men and myself, I knew I was right where I needed to be. I have enjoyed that committee. Learning how to negotiate, learning how to state your opinion, and then maybe agree to disagree, but walk away feeling good about each other and being able to carry on conversations and do what's better for the good and moving forward and progressing. I'm trying to think, what are some other great things? I have 5 children that I adore and a beautiful daughter-in-law that I love very much, a husband that is the cutest little Polynesian man you'll ever meet. He's so kind-hearted and tender and loving and supportive, and supports me in this adventure that I've taken on. A lot of people pushed me to the front for this and have been preparing me, and businessmen have been pushing me forward saying, you've got to run, you've got to run. And I've always taken it back to my husband and said, what are your thoughts? Because he has great wisdom, great advice, and great direction. And I trust him. And he said, let's do this. I'm ready to be the first man of Provo. And I think he is. He would make a great first man of Provo if I were to win mayor. I'm trying to think. I attended Brigham Young University. Fascinating story is I made a commitment to my mother, who passed away when I was a young mother. I think we wore her out. 7 kids, raising them by herself was a lot of work. She worked the graveyard shift at the hospital, and so she did the 7 to 7 shift, and was just an amazing, nurturing, loving mother, and taught me more and makes me the person I am today. Anyways, if I talk about her, I'll cry, so I have to move on. So she actually was like one of the first female student body presidents of Provo High. She was a leader in the community. Even though it was tough being a single mom, she was always there to help, always there to serve. And I feel like my serving abilities have been learned by her. I've learned from her. BYU, I studied International Global Studies with an emphasis on local government, which feeds right into this. I have learned about zoning and how to literally make zoning maps and read them, and how to do presentations. I loved my time at BYU. It was such, I walk off that campus and I almost felt like I can't leave. I'm having way too much fun. I'm a lifelong learner. I want to keep going. So I do have goals to pursue further education, which I've had to put on hold because this is a full-time job and I can't do anything without doing it 110%. So my hobbies, these are super great. I'm a lover, avid lover of the outdoors. The mountains, the Brock Canyon Mountains and the West Mountain and the lake, I dare you to take me on a trail I haven't been on. I am up in the mountains all the time. Rain, shine, snow up to my thighs, I'm there. It's my peaceful place. I enjoy the outdoors, and I'm an avid book reader. I read about 3 books a month. It has slowed down a little bit since the campaign. I just finished my 2nd book for last month, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm currently reading Paul Revere, which is fascinating and loving that. Some other things about me is I love being with my family. I have to admit, I don't know that much about sports. People often are confused when they hear the last name Kaufusi. They just think, oh my gosh, sports is all you do and you just produce these massive sports kids. You know what? There's so much more to life than sports. And I have tried, and I think I've succeeded in implementing that into their lives. It's ingrained in their little hearts and heads. They know there's more to life than sports. I try really hard to sit through their games, but a lot of times I'll think of other things that are more productive or that I could be doing. So then I have a little bit of a tug of war. Sometimes I think it's halftime. I could run to Costco and no one will be there. And I do that. I will confess. But I do love the team building and the lessons, life lessons my kids have learned through sports are irreplaceable as well. We currently live up on Comanche Lane, and we love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. Everyone's been so great. My husband and I decided that when we did this final move to Provo and our children, we wanted them to have stability. In his profession, there's a lot of instability. A lot of his coaching friends and our friends are on their 12th, 13th, 14th move. That wasn't what we wanted for our kids. We both committed that when we moved to Provo, we were here to stay. Even if I had to work 2 jobs and he had to work 2 jobs, we were going to do what it was going to take to stay in Provo. And that just tells you how much I believe in Provo and how much I want my children to believe in Provo, and I want to build a Provo that my children are going to want to stay in and their children are going to want to stay in, and that's my goal. Oh, I'm running a marathon just for kicks and giggles because I have a girlfriend that is my dear, dear friend, and we are training for a marathon. Funny story, I paid my fee and I've been working on it, and then we were doing some calendaring in our family meeting because our life's all over the board, which is just exactly how I love it. The busier, the better. And I said, my marathon is September 9th. Is anyone coming? Because this is my 10th marathon. And it's my last. I've decided I want to end on number 10 and call it good because I'm getting a little bit old to do that 26.2 miles. And my husband said, what day is that? I said, September 9th. And I'm so excited. And he said, oh, that's only the day of the BYU-Utah game. And I thought, well, that's totally our family. I will be running a marathon. They'll all be prepping for the biggest game of the season, and we'll all meet up at the locker room at the end. And that's the goal. So we have a great family. We've had a great life. I've had a great life in Provo, and I have a true love for the city of Provo. I love to talk about parking and transportation in Provo. It's one of our hot topics. When I think of parking and transportation in Provo, the first thing that comes to my mind is what we're currently in the middle of, which is our BRT. It is coming. It is coming our way. We need to embrace it. We need to make sure that it's utilized. If we're paying for it, I want to make sure that my money is being put to the right place, to the right spot that they stated they would put it. I guess that's one thing I feel about with BRT is I can be responsible to hold their feet to the fire. When they say they're going to do this, then we're going to make sure they do it. It's going to be fascinating and interesting to watch and see how the community embraces it. We will see if people jump on and are just drawn to it, or if it's going to take some time. But like I said, it's coming, so we have to utilize it, and we don't want to waste our money. So if our money's already been put into it, let's get the most out of it. Another problem with parking, probably the second, would be the downtown parking. That's such a hot topic as well. When I think of downtown parking, I think of ways that we could resolve that would be signage, meters, paid parking, apps that go with parking. There's a whole plethora of things that we can look into. One thing for sure when it comes to the downtown community is when that gets resolved, by getting that resolved, we need to bring those people that it impacts to the table and say, tell us what's working. Tell us what's not working. If you could make one change, what would it be? I want to hear them. I want to hear from the people that are down in the trenches. I want to hear their ideas and their solutions and listen and see if we can put those into action. Probably the third would be our complete road system, which has been another hot topic, a complete road system. I was in Denver, Colorado for a school board convention, and they have complete roads there. And it was fascinating to see how it worked with the green designated bike lanes. It went from sidewalk to bike lane, walking to bike lane to cars, and then to their bus rapid transit. It works if everyone educates and buys in and participates. And that will be something we're going to have to watch. People are riding their bikes so much more now. People are much more aware of the environment and trying to do things that will help in any way they can, which includes riding bicycles. So we have to educate our community. We have to look for them. We have to be aware of them. I've loved joining the bike committee down in Provo and learning their concerns and their issues and all the good they're doing. They are really out there looking for solutions, which I appreciate. As far as the new parking administrator, bless his heart, that is going to be a great job. I've worked with Matt before, so it will be good to work with him again. I'm not a micromanager, so my expectation for him will be that he will do his job description. He will get in, dig in deep, talk to the right people, find out solutions, and then we can all come to the table and discuss them. And it will be interesting and fascinating, and it's got to happen, and we have to do it right. We don't have time to mess around. We have to do our parking and solve our issues in the proper way. Being on the school board, I have had to deal a lot with the ADA compliance with the schools, with access to the football fields, access to the baseball fields. We have to meet the ADA requirements of wheelchair accessible up to these facilities, which has been great because as we've been redoing our football fields, we do it then. As we're doing our baseball fields, we do it then. As we're redoing our roads right now, that is something we need to take into consideration is ADA compliance. There's no reason that those that are in wheelchairs shouldn't be able to enjoy our beautiful downtown Provo and the canyons and the mountains. We need to be more respectful and more aware and in tune to their needs as well. Economic development is probably one of the main things that makes our city go. If we can get strong economic development in downtown Provo, it is going to impact all of us. We all will succeed. It will impact our taxes. So I'm a huge proponent for economic development. We have to get these businesses downtown. We have to entice them. We have to have the conversations. I want to know, what's so hard about coming to Provo? Why did you choose Orem? Is setting up shop hard in Provo? If it is, let's fix that and make it easy. I want to know what it's going to take to lurk businesses in, and then what's it going to take to keep businesses. Provo's known for being an incubator type business. Entrepreneurship is huge, and we get all the credit for these great businesses, but then they tend to kind of outgrow us and move and leave. And that is one thing we have to solve. We have to go to these companies and say, what would it take to keep you here? What can the city do to help you so that you will not up and leave us? Because we need you here. Some things, as I've studied this and met with the economic development team and the director, is marketing, screaming from the rooftops that Provo is open for business. We want your business. We want you here. We want you to set up shop. We are from the mouth of the canyon to Springville, from the mountains to the lake. There is business opportunities throughout the whole city that we need to take into consideration. We need to be able to offer arts. A lot of people come here and think, well, maybe I'll live in Salt Lake because there's more accessibility to arts and cultural things. Well, you know what? We have those too. So we need to shine a light on those and sell those. We need to offer mixed housing so that, if I were a single woman coming here to work, I would be able to have options of where I could live in downtown Provo, or maybe I wanted a more quiet, peaceful neighborhood. We need options. We need to make it accessible to businesses and meet their needs so that they are willing to come and stay and grow here. Nowadays, incentives is one of the negotiating tools that you have to have when you go to the table. You have to be able to go to a table, ask the hard questions, give them the hard answers, and then be willing to negotiate. It's all about give and take. Negotiating, I've negotiated many deals, $1 million deals, and you have to be able to say, great, we're willing to do this, but what are you willing to do? And back and forth till you both feel satisfied. Businesses are going to come where they're going to get the most bang for their buck. And we want to be able to offer that in Provo. And if that takes negotiating, then we will negotiate, because we need economic development in Provo. Many citizens have been concerned about us bringing in big retail, and then other citizens have preference of not bringing in the big box stores. My opinion on that is what makes Provo so unique, is we do have this little bit of an eclectic city where there's a little bit of everything. People come into town and the mom and pop shops are there for you. But we also do need to promote big box stores as well. I think that every time I see my neighbors drive out to Orem, I cringe, because you're just feeding their tax base. If we could get some new development of some sort that would support the needs of the Provo citizens, that making it so they wouldn't have to go to Springville or go to Orem to do their grocery shopping or to buy products, that would help us all, because by building our tax base, that makes us so our out-of-pocket isn't as high, and that's significant. As far as the Trader Joe's question, because it's come up, it's interesting to me, because when you look at the studies that they did and they claim to have done, and if you look at that strip of road that comes right up from our diagonal from University Parkway and shoots out to I-15, it is just store, big box store, all the way out to the freeway. And you know what? I personally don't think I want that in Provo. I would like some of it, but I am so grateful we don't have that street in our town. I love the feel of Provo. Yes, a Target maybe in the East Bay area, a couple of those stores would be fantastic, but we still have that hometown feel, which I love. Provo is known for being community. You know your neighbors. You accept people. There's a wide range of people in Provo, but we tend to have this ability to know our neighbors and accept and love everyone. It's a unique situation. And honestly, I love that about Provo. So a few Smart economic development decisions, yes. But in my case, I would take it slow, and I would talk to the stakeholders, and I would do smart business development, because the last thing I want to do is build out big development and 10 years from now look back and regret doing something like that, because that's not what we want. We have to know that this 4 years for this term is 4 years, but we're really projecting 20 years down the road. What's going to be best for our city 20 years down the road? And we have to be thinking that way. So I think it all ties back to smart economic development and really, really digging deep and asking those hard questions, which I'm not afraid to do. Something I want to talk about that is exciting is some of the development that's already in place and is started already, which is the Provo Town Mall revitalization and the Mix. The Mix is part of Provo. It's on University, and as we know, Provo goes up to the light, and that Mix is going to be a beautiful project. I've actually been able to be at the table for this for about 18 months, being on the Board of Education, because they have come to us and asked for some tax breaks, some RDAs and CDAs, which we are more than willing to give, because like I said, we are willing to negotiate, to draw people in and get those businesses. The Mix, I've looked at it, I've studied it. It's going to be a huge asset to Provo. It's going to be someplace where we can all go and enjoy. It will have a little bit of everything. In fact, I love the name The Mix, because that's what it is. It's a mix of everything. There will be office space, retail, water fountains, walking paths, parking, restaurants. It's going to be a huge jewel to the city of Provo in that area. And then on the other side, over at East Bay, that area, we have the mall. And I went over and toured the mall and met with them and talked to them about what their goals and aspirations are. Something I learned, which is so true, is they are on a 10-year plan, which is hard for Provo people to slow down, because we're goers. We are movers and shakers. We like things done. We like things done pretty. We like things done now. But their plan is a stable 10-year plan, and it's going to take 10 years. So we have to have patience, and we have to allow them to take that time to get that building and that development up to par to where they want it to be. So that's another big development. And a third that I'd like to just mention is down at the Riverwoods. There's a lot going on down there. I know people have been talking about it. I've attended some of those meetings about what's coming that way, and I am thrilled, because we're doing mixed housing, mixed living. People can live there that work at Qualtrics. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. People can shop at the Riverwoods. They're going to do mixed retail as well. So I feel like we're making progress. We're making steps. The momentum's going. And my job is to build on that momentum as your next mayor and keep that momentum going and make it even better, so that 4 years from now, you'll look back and you'll have a vibrant city to look at. So how am I going to use social media? Social media has changed everything. Mayor Curtis has done a remarkable job with social media. He has brought it to the forefront, and we are going to keep that momentum going, and we are going to build on it. I will keep the mayor's blog going. I will keep the outreach going. One thing I will take time to figure out and come up with a different solution is I've had multiple people that are a little bit older come forward and say, I don't have Facebook. How do I find out? Well, they do the mailer on the utilities bill. There's other ways that you can be informed about Provo, and so much of that is just educating people and telling them where to find it, where to look, because it's out there, and we will keep that going. Media, social media is the future, and we plan to participate in it and be at the forefront of it. As far as marketing goes and Provo, something I have loved just as being a citizen is the marketing of the t-shirt they do each year. They have gotten to the point where I fight with my kids over the Provo t-shirt. It's cool, it's hip, it's neat. That's definitely something we'll keep going as well. Growth is coming to Provo, and we have to be prepared. When I think of growth, I think of 20 years from now, are we going to be prepared with infrastructure, with sewer systems, with water lines, with all the things we need to make a city function be in place so we don't have some major crisis 20 years from now? We have to get prepared and be ready for the growth. I know, being on the Board of Education, we talk about the populations and the expected population growth every year. As we've built our new high school and our new 4 elementary schools, we have taken into consideration the population growth. We are putting in place elements that will be able to be activated when we need them for growth. We have to be ready. I love the things that have happened in the city recently, the rec center, all these the library. I love those things. But I also love the idea that we are prepared for 20 years from now when our population booms. Do we have the infrastructure in place? Do we have the things we need? Let's decide the difference between wants and needs. I may not be the glitziest mayor. I may not be able to say I did this beautiful rec center, which Mayor Curtis gets to put that feather in his hat. But I will be the mayor that will decide, is it a want, is it a need? And I will weigh heavy on the needs prior to the wants. So the lack of affordable housing in Provo and how we can overcome that. When that question came to mind, I put a lot of thought into that, thinking, do we want subsidized housing? We have subsidized housing. Do we want the federal government paying half and giving us false sense of security? No, we don't want that. We are looking for long-term solutions in our city. I'm open-minded. I'm open to ideas of ways to help those, I call it the gray area, the people that are in the gray area. Their job, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't quite get a leg up to get enough to put a down payment on a home, but yet they want to stay in Provo and they want to raise their families here. Those people we need to talk to. We need to figure out some plan of action that involves everybody and gives their input that we can come to a solution. I don't have the solution. That's a tough one. I don't have the solution for that, but I am willing to listen and learn and bring the people to the table that need to have input and that will figure it out so that we can provide affordable housing, mixed housing, so that people can come here and feel like they really are home. We need to stand by our statement that Provo means welcome home. Not welcome for a minute or welcome until you can afford it or don't come until you can afford it. We want you to be here if you want to be here, and we want to help you in any way we possibly can. So solutions to affordable housing, it's a hot topic and it's in the news. The pocket neighborhoods, the small cottage homes that are beautiful and designed and yet all feed into a communal type front yard. Homes for vets that are affordable and manageable for them and their special needs they might have. These are all things that we have got to look into because that's the way of the future. That's the movement. That's where we're going. These big neighborhoods, custom homes are one thing, but these huge developments of 1,000 homes that all look the same other than a few upgrades that you might be able to choose and pick as a homeowner, that's great if that's what you want. But if you're wanting something a little bit more simplified, downscale, I believe we have got to take a look. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's being done all over the country. These tiny homes and these pocket neighborhoods, and why not embrace that? I would love to see some of those come into the city of Provo and be able to make some neighborhoods very enticing and people wanting to live there. I think it's a good thing. The West Side is booming right now. It is where everything is happening. The West Side in the next 4 years, I believe, is going to decide the next 20 to 30 years down the road. This is a critical time for the West Side. The West patrons, as I've been out walking neighborhoods, I have heard feedback that they feel like they're underrepresented, underheard. And I don't blame them, because if you look at it, all the representation except 1 or 2 is on the East Side. And I feel for them. I was on the West Side as a child. They feel like they're not being heard. In fact, I want to share, I got a great email from a West Side patron that said, I want to stay in my neighborhood. I love my neighborhood, but the zoning isn't being enforced, and people are up on their roofs in folding chairs, and families are leaving because of this. Well, we have got to stop that. We have got to enforce our zoning. We have got to develop the West Side, but we have to develop it smart, because the West Side is a jewel. It has agricultural, it has wetlands, it has the lake, it has some of the most amazing things that the city has to offer. And the last thing we want to do is develop something out there that 30 years, when we look back, we'll be regretting it and wish we hadn't. We are not going to let that happen. We are going to do smart developing. We are going to talk to the West Side, hear what they want. I had this idea, and it's a little bit off the cuff, but as I was coming down to this interview, I was thinking how lucky I've been to be on the Board of Education, and how in my Board of Education there are 7 districts. There is representation from every district. There is no such thing as a citywide board member. And I thought, wouldn't that be fantastic if we were to possibly dissolve citywide council and literally follow the way that the school board's done it, and do 7 districts so there's equal representation at the table. I think that's a fantastic idea. I would need feedback on that from the community. But it has worked great. I have loved working with my board members that are on the West Side. I have learned so much from them. They have been patient with me and taught me and been real open with me and educated me on the needs of the West Side, and I appreciate them. And I see no problem in doing that with our city council, because when you go over there and they say this and we've given up because we feel like no one hears us or we're underrepresented, that doesn't go well with me. It's not sitting well. We need to let them know they are just as valued, their voice is just as important as anybody's voice that crosses University Avenue. So let's talk about the airport. I use that airport all the time. My family utilizes that airport. That airport is an up-and-coming boom for Provo. It has so much to offer as long as we get it right, and that is my emphasis. We have to do this airport right. We have to talk to the people that live around the airport, get their feedback, and then we have to talk to the airport owners and the runners, the directors, and say, please tell us, what are your needs? 30 years from now, what do you want to see at the airport? Duncan Aviation, I've been a part of that since the get-go, since it started, because they came to the Board of Education and asked for some tax breaks as well. Duncan Aviation has the potential to bring thousands of jobs to Provo, and we've got to be ready for it. We have to utilize that. It's interesting, we're the 3rd biggest city in the state of Utah, but you would never guess that with our airport. I feel like we're a little behind on that. We've got to pick up, we've got to get caught up, and we've got to utilize that. What a lot of people don't understand is if we can utilize the airport and make it into something greater and more profitable, that's a much larger tax base that in return impacts all of our taxes and lowers them. And that would be good for all of us. If they succeed, we succeed. But we've got to get it right. I love talking about zoning. Zoning has impacted the city of Provo more than anything else. I have seen both sides of the zoning compliance issues. I have talked to property owners that own properties that in their mind, they want to make a buck. So they're allowing 7 or 8 people to live in the house where it's only zoned for 3 cars and maybe 5 to 6 people, but there's really 8 to 10 cars and there's really 7 to 8 people. They don't abide by the zoning, and it has impacted our cities. It has impacted our neighborhoods. We have got to take a stand. I know that they have recently hired an assistant in the law area for the zoning compliance and a zoning compliance full-time employee to enforce this. When I started doing my research on this, I reached out to the city council and I said, educate me. I don't know everything, so please educate me on why this has been your priority for the past 2 years. I got wonderful feedback from the city council. It was interesting for me to learn that I guess they do like a numbers type rubric where they pick the topics and give them a weighted number of what's most important to them. A couple of the city council members said that none of them had put zoning as their number 1, but because it was 2 or 3 on almost everybody's, it weighted enough that it had become the first and top priority for 2 years in a row. Now, with that said, they've made great progress. They are addressing it. They are working on it. They're aware of it. And sometimes that's the most important step, is just being aware of it and enforcing it. At this point, the city council members I've talked to said they don't perceive it to be number 1 next year because they feel like they've made progress. But zoning has to be enforced. It has to be, and yet I understand the people that are making the money off the rentals and et cetera, but we have to remember the neighborhoods and there's places for people, for the 6 and 8 people to go, but let's not cheat and break the law and cram them where they're not needed and line our streets with cars that aren't legally supposed to be there. Let's try and clean it up so that the neighborhoods are back to being safe, welcoming neighborhoods. So the new City Hall. I have been having discussions with the City Council because we meet on a regular basis as a Board of Education and City Council for 6 years. And I have heard their concerns about this and building a new municipality building to better serve the community with the police station and the fire department and the mayor's office and everything that includes. I saw a drawing from FFKR Architects, which I've worked with, which are currently building our new Provo High. And wow, it's a whole block and it is beautiful and it is futuristic. But I have this conservative side of me that just pulls back and says, okay, what are our wants? What are our needs? What can we do with and what can we do without? I had a dear friend tell me that anytime you go into a city and you're driving through and the municipality building, the city council building is the nicest building in the city, then there's something wrong with the local government. I have put that to thought and I've rolled that over in my head over and over again, and I understand there's extremes. I've lived it with the building of these 5 schools. Sure, we could have gone very extreme and gone clear out here and had a huge budget and spent all this money and had this great school. But you know what? Needs versus wants. Something that's a non-negotiable for me is our standing on our bonds. We have to stay in good standing with our bonding. If we were to go all out and it was to impact, I couldn't support that because we have to do what is going to be best. We don't want to leave a mess for our kids to be paying off and bailing out 20 years from now. But I do understand the need and I do understand the want. And we've got to negotiate, we've got to come to the table and find the balance for that. And I wish they could solve that and get it all done before the election, but it's not going to happen, so we're going to have to address it. So what is my vision for the city of Provo in the next 4 years and beyond? When I look back 20 years from now, I expect to see a vibrant, flourishing city. I expect to see my kids living here, your kids living here, employment rates up, housing available, a beautiful community that's got green space and walking space and all the unique things that make Provo so inviting. We are a community. We know our neighbors. We support each other. We accept people. We love people. And I expect that. And I will do whatever needs to be done over the next 4 years to get that momentum, build on the momentum, and take it to the next level, and keep taking it to the next level so that I can reflect back 20 years from now and feel comfortable and energized and proud of what I was able to accomplish as being your Provo mayor. The thought of being the first woman mayor just is so exciting. But yet at the same time, I don't want people to vote for me because I'm a woman. I want you to vote for me because I am the most qualified candidate that is running for mayor. I'm experienced, I'm trusted, and I'm invested in Provo. And those are the key components to making Provo better than it is now and better for the future. But I have to admit, when I filed for mayor and they told me I was the first female ever in the history of Provo to file, it did give a little bit of a tingling feeling. It was good. So why should you vote for me for your Provo mayor? I am qualified to be your next mayor. I have had experience. I am currently the only one in this pool of candidates that holds a political office that's voted in by the people. I have been in the trenches. I have had to manage budgets. I have had to make hard decisions. I have had to fire people and hire people when it hasn't been easy. I have had to negotiate. I have the energy. I have the desire. I have the love. I have the ability to become the mayor that never stops. I will never go to sleep without making sure my job's completed. I will stay true and loyal to the city. I will basically be the ambassador of Provo, and I will sell it, and I will make it better today than it is, better tomorrow than it is today. If you're interested in reaching out to me, I love one-on-one meetings. I love visiting. It's my favorite part about campaigning. Not everybody loves campaigning. I love the face-to-face interaction. I love hearing your concerns. So please reach out to me. You can visit my website at michelleformayor.com, and it's the number 4. And there is a volunteer sheet. You can email me questions and concerns. You can ask to meet with me, and I will respond and I will reach out, because that's what it's all about, is communication, and I want to hear from you. So thank you.